part 3. So we're talking about property prices. Houses, office buildings, and entire companies are worth whatever the banks will lend. So populations and corporate raiders have responded to the pro-financial tax shift, borrowing to buy houses and companies before prices recede even further out of reach. And taxes on labor now are about to be jacked up to pay off public debts resulting from asset price inflation and financial wreckage that property tax cuts have helped to cause. This is the cause of national debts. At least in Europe it is. To ours we can add our continuous wars overseas. Governments have run into debt as a result of untaxing the wealthy. And the wealthy, I'm talking about the super wealthy here, and not just real estate. But neoliberals, and you can also call them neoconservatives, you know, it's an exchangeable kind of term, because we're talking about the likes of Dick Cheney, Paul Wolfowitz, Bernanke, Summers, Tim Geithner, all of these guys, okay? But neoliberals blame it and other but neoliberals blame it and other debtor governments for not selling off enough public land and enterprise to make up the gap or the shortfall. Just as the US government has done, Greece has issued bonds to finance the deficit resulting from these tax cuts for the wealthy. The buyers of these bonds, and in Europe, you know, mainly German banks, are demanding that Greek labor, and now German taxpayers as well, should bear the burden of tax shortfalls. German and other European banks and bondholders are to be repaid at the social cost of drastic cutbacks in pensions and social spending, and if possible, by even more privatization and drastic sell-off of assets. Now this is the shock doctrine at work. So I would suggest you read Naomi Klein's book, The Shock Doctrine. The riots in Greece have erupted because labor understands what most journalistic reporting shies away from confronting. Growth in real wages has slowed and has stopped cold in the United States since about 1979. Home ownership has been achieved solely at the cost of new buyers taking on lifetimes' worth of mortgages that they cannot afford. Bondholders and financial speculators have ganged up to demand EU, IMF, and US support for them to take their gains before the entire financial game crashes. And the grab can be done most quickly by shrinking economies under IMF-style austerity plans. You see, the whole thing is unemployment is supposed to rise under this model while driving economies even further into debt. Not only public debt as shrinking markets lead to falling tax revenue, but also foreign debt as import dependency then increases. Wow, that's one of the longest videos I've ever made. I think I'm going to go on to part 4.